Sarah, a new day and a new Olympiad story. Whom are we going to talk about today?
I think the previous episode when we spoke about Vishy Anand, we spoke about passion, we spoke about the need to have fun. So in that, when I come, who has the most fun on the chessboard and who has a sensational news, sensational games played in the Olympiad, I think Judit Polgar is where we should put it.
Wow. The strongest female player ever in the world of chess. But I think her Olympiad story is just maybe the point of her career which put her into like world prominence. Isn't that true?
Definitely. The 1988 Olympiad, where they made a sensational debut, the three Polgar sisters and Ildiko medal of Hungary, and they just swept the gold from the Georgians. Especially the way Judith played in the tournament was phenomenal, in my opinion.
She scored what, 12 and a half out of 13?
12 and a half out of 13, exactly.
Unbelievable. And I think it was like a team of a country that came from one family. And that is so rare. Like you don't have it generally.
Yeah, the fourth player was Ildiko medal, and sadly she didn't get to play a single round in the tournament. Yeah, almost. So,
There used to be three boards, yeah, at that point in women's.
Yeah, correct. There were 3 boards and 1 reserve for women, whereas there are 4 boards and 2 reserves for men, which was all changed somewhere in after 2000, I believe. When I played in 1998, it was 4 men boards with 2 reserves for men and only 3+1 was women. Yeah. That tournament, first of all, this is something I've always wondered. Polgar became this tactical giant later on in his career, a female equivalent of Alexei Shiro, so to say. Was there any seeds of that? Was there any flashes of that in that tournament? What's your memory about her games in the tournament?
I think there was this one game which is so insane. Like, I want to see that game.
I know where you are going.
It was like, I mean, and it was so neat, so clean. She finished her opponent off in 17 moves.
She was only 12 years, Sagar, not 13. She was only 12 years. You know, I met her in the World Championship Dubai recently. I've always had this image of chess players, especially, you know, the world champions, Anand, Kramnik. You know, day before yesterday or so, she was in the Chess 24 live stream of the candidates' matches along with Magnus Carlsen. You know, they were having so much fun. Polgar is like giggling. Is this what you do? Really? She is with Carlsen and they're laughing. You know, so much fun. Once again,
Chess. Her passion is to use chess as a tool to kind of empower kids. So that's why she has this global chess festival every year. And it's one of the finest chess festivals. Also, Sarah, you would be very interested to know she loves to cook. She also loves Indian cooking and all of that. So that just shows that her, you know, whatever she likes to do, she goes deep into it.
Yeah, she told me that too. And aside, I feel like telling this joke now that chess and fun came to my mind. Long ago, when Kasparov was still playing, I asked Anand, you know, whenever I see Kasparov, there was no YouTube and videos at the time. So whenever I see Kasparov, he comes across as extremely serious to me. Does he joke at all? Anand said, no, he knows how to have fun. And he told me this joke. There was this Intel series of Grand Prix rapid tournaments used to take place, yeah, the end of 90s and all that. That was Kasparov's brainchild, by the way. So one of the matches, Kasparov and Anand finished their game and were watching. Let's not reveal the Grandmaster's name. So this Grandmaster, very strong Grandmaster 2600 is playing. So he's playing Judit Polgar, in fact. Okay. So the pawn structure for white is G3, F4. Okay. And there is a black pawn on E6. Polgar is black and this guy is white. So first what he does, he just plays F4 to F5. Polgar doesn't get it. She just looks at it and takes E cross F5, 1 pawn up. White knight goes to F4. The next move, he goes G3 to G4. Polgar is still like, what? And then she captures that also. White's another knight goes from E2 to G3. But he is 2 pawns down and he promptly loses the game. So Anand and Kasparov are watching that and Anand is like, what? So Kasparov tells Anand, you know this guy, just before this tournament, He read something about blockades, but he didn't read properly. So, one of the best jokes I've ever heard in chess. I mean, it's a really true chess joke which you can understand if you're a chess player. And it comes from Gary Kasparov. And I was telling like Kasparov can be fun too whenever he wants. I'm not at all surprised, fun loving, that kind of a person she is.
Yeah.
And yes, 1998 was where it all started, definitely. I want to see this game which you mentioned. 17 more, did you say?
Yes. Let's have a look at it. This is Judith playing with the white pieces against Pavlina Chilingirova. The game starts off with e4, c5, knight to f3, knight c6, bishop b5, the Rosolimo, g6, castles, bishop g7, c3, e5, pawn to d4, takes, takes, knight takes, and pawn takes. So black has won a pawn, and now Polgar, of course, just puts her pawn to e5. You cannot take it, I guess, because of rook e1, followed by f4. So knight
Somewhere
e7.
here itself, Judith gets what she wants, kind of an open position, free moment of her pieces. Of course, she doesn't care about material ever. And potential of a kingside attack. Yeah,
Absolutely. Bishop to g5.
of course.
Castles. Who cares about the d4? Okay, she takes it.
Of course.
Knight c6. So now the queen is attacked and also the bishop on g5.
The pawn, yeah.
So queen h4. Now the queen is attacked. Queen b6. And she develops defending the bishop. And now black takes on e5.
See, that's another thing. Throughout the game, Polgar never bothers about the pawn on e5. That's basically a person who loves her tactics, She knows that the time wasted to take the pawn will definitely prove to be costly, and it did prove to be costly ultimately.
Yeah, so now the point is like there's this thing coming in bishop c3, bc3, and queen b5. You might want to save your bishop, or you might want to play a move like a4 or maybe take on c6, something of that sort. But now Judith goes rook a e1. This is just shows the patterns that are there already in her mind. These tactical patterns.
See, attacking players, this is one of the theories of RB Ramesh, basically. Even if the position is equal, when there is a chance of an attack, material basically comes in the end, one. And the second is, you are obliged to attack when you are supposed to attack. And any of the sides start paying attention to material, they will lose. So if you are an attacking side, if you suddenly get worried about the material you are giving, your attack will not succeed. If you are the defending side, suddenly you get tempted to grab material your opponent is giving, you will end up in the losing side. So bishop e5 is one of the moves where, black got tempted to take the pawn which was free all the while, I would say.
Is there any particular reason why you have to play the a rook and not the f rook here? I don't know if in any of the variations that does matter, but I'm sure it does. That's why she played it here.
Actually, I'm not very sure
So
about
let's
it.
say
But
bishop
anyway.
c3, bc3, queen b5. And in the game that this rook was here, maybe it doesn't.
I think it doesn't matter. Only one thing I can think of for rook a e1, if the bishop goes back to g7, let us say, instead of staying there, you will need the f1 rook on f1 to push f4 f at some point. Maybe that's the only thing I can think of here. But once again, an instinct of an attacker, right and through.
Bishop c3, bc3, and then queen took here, and now white to play. What should white play? I think Judith's next move, queen h6, was very cool because the threat is clear. She wants to go bishop f6 and mate on dark squares, and so her opponent played queen f5 and she thought she stopped it. And this next pattern is not so easy to spot. I think anyone can miss it.
Once again, I'm very sure Judith smelled this miles before. And the most important thing is, you go through these 3 wonderful books written by Judit Polgar, How I Beat Fish as a Record, How I Reach the Top 10. The book is full of attacking patterns, not just the games, the analysis, everything. The book is loaded with attacking patterns, the sparks of which, of course, you find here in 1988. Of course, when she played this, she was 2365. In 1988's 2365 was definitely today's 2500, in my opinion, or even maybe more actually. Queen F8 for Judith at the time, she would have smelt miles before. This was a snack, I think, for her. This game was a snack before the ultimate show. Okay, this was played in the 10th round, and already they had won the tournament, I believe, for all practical purposes, the Hungarian team.
But Sarah, I think one of the training strategies which Judith's, I think her father was one of her main trainers in the younger days, Laszlo Polgar. And there's this famous book that he has written, 5,300 positions or something.
45. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And it has all these patterns, and I think somehow this was the kind of training that they did in the younger days where they looked at a lot of patterns.
Exactly. They say, right, when a chess player is young and developing, the most important thing to know is the amount of knowledge you put into the book tactically. The tactical patterns, the attacks, and what kind of book. I think it's 5-3-3-4 problems
5-3-3-4.
combinations. Yeah,
Right.
5-3-3-4. Yeah. Wonderful book, by the way. Yeah. For any beginner, I can wholeheartedly recommend it. Okay, this was probably one-sided in a certain way. In this tournament, if I have to put a point where, this was Judith's play, there are other games, of course, but my most favorite was her game against the ultimate world champion, ultimately, Xi Jun from China.
So before we go to that game, Sarah, I want to ask you, like, at that point, 1988, how old would you be?
17.
17. And when you were following this event, what sort of thing happened? Like when this team of Hungary just went forth and beat everyone, took the gold medal, and these three sisters, Judith scoring 12 and a half out of 13. Then I think Gary Kasparov was watching some games of her when she was playing. I think these all stories came out. As a growing chess player yourself, what kind of an impact did that make?
At the same time, two very sensational prodigies came out. Judit Polgar, Vasily Ivanchuk. 1989 was the year Vasily Ivanchuk won the Linares tournament ahead of Karpov and Kasparov. This was very, very refreshing at the time. First of all, any new talent coming up is exciting news. The most important part of the story was, the difference in the style of Judith compared to her elder sisters, Susan and Zofia, basically. The kind of tactics that Polgar used to play was amazing. See, I have never been associated with women chess, and only recently I've started training a woman grandmaster. So before that, I've almost never been associated with women chess. But from what I've heard from my friends, Ramesh and Vishal, women chess at the top, the way they played it from the beginning and all that, it is not very common that you find tactical geniuses at the top of women chess. Of course, we have all kinds of players, but this is nothing to do with stereotyping them. But in 1988, there was no player like Judith before her who used to play chess like her. That was one very important thing. Second thing was, see, at that time, Laszlo Polgar's so-called experiment with the family. They had 3 children. They raised them in a certain way. They took them out of the common educational system of Hungary. They taught him their own way, and they made them geniuses, not only in chess, in every way. All those stories had not still come out, right? We know it only subsequently. Now we have read the book what Laszlo Polgar wrote and all that. But at that time, a man went against a country, the government of a country, that to an Eastern Bloc country. That added to the intrigue a lot, actually. And of course, the sisters were pretty as well, so that added also to all the excitement.
Yeah, but it is amazing how all 3 of them went on to become strong players. But Judith particularly, what she has achieved, and I still can't believe it that there was only one player ever to have crossed 2700, one female player, and not just 2700, she beat everyone. Like just about everyone, and not just in some tricky ways or like, you know, someone blundering. She was beating, like, there are games that she beat, like Vishy Anand as well. This is a movie based on it, and like sacrificing one piece after another. I mean, unbelievable.
I had one false belief till those times. I had this very strong belief that people who become world beaters or prodigies, I very strongly believe that they all started as tactical players and then they went on to become universal players or stayed as tactical players and still dominated the world. So I used to quote Gary Kasparov, Shiro, Vishy Anand, etc., etc. Till I changed my views till I met Konaru Humpy on the board. I played her in 1997 national championship when she was hardly 11 years old, I think. Humpy was completely different. She was a very, very sound positional player who used to excel in endgames from her young days about that. And then, of course, I met Sashi Kiran, the other genius of Indian chess, who also was not a real tactical genius when he was young and all that. But at that time, Judit Polgar fitted the bill very well, you know. She was a tactical player, and there was no doubt that she will go to the heights she went to. So this was in every way a sensational start. This Olympiad start of her career.
Yeah, I'm still amazed as to how only one. I mean, in a way, she's unique. Okay, you can say in the chess world she's unique, but she's unique in the world itself. Because there's no sport in which a woman would come as close to what Judith Polgar did in chess to beating the male opponents. You know, like, I mean, we don't even realize what a unbelievably big superstar she is, and the seeds of it are sown in this Olympiad.
Yeah, and now she is on the way to becoming one of the best commentators also in my opinion, currently.
Yeah.
Very, very enjoyable commentary, by the way. Very jolly, fun.
So you were talking about this game against Zi Jun.
Yeah.
And she's playing with the black pieces here. And it was the Taimanov.
Before you go through the game, I want to tell you something. We had this former player named Pavanasan. He used to be a very strong player. He used to finish 7th in the national. He finished 7th in the national once. In current days of opportunities, he would have definitely become an international master. Very strong player. So Pavanasan used to say about attacking players. He had a certain, fun looking at so-called attacking players of India. He didn't really believe that they were attacking players. So he used to say, there is this thing called Indian attack. In Indian attack, what you do is you sacrifice all your pieces. By chance, if it ends in checkmate, you say that it was a brilliant attack. Most of the time, it doesn't because you have given up too much material. Then you say that, just bad luck, I didn't see this defense coming. That's about it. You see some of Judith's games, it will actually look like that. I told in one of the earlier episodes about Kasparov's games being criticized by Mikhail Botvinnik as in the style of Tolush, Alexander Tolush. He did have such a style where activity at the cost of anything, including material. But without guarantee that activity will give him victory. It actually used to look like that when you see some of these games of Judith in the earlier stage. But of course, we all know how it turned out ultimately.
Yeah. So coming back to this game, bishop came to e2, a6, castles, knight to f6, king h1, took on d4, queen d4, and bishop c5. The queen went back, and now
h5.
H5.
There is an Indian grandmaster who made his life playing h5 with black pieces in Taiwan. Countless victories with black pieces. Oh. Countless.
Okay, let me guess. Is it Barua?
Of course.
Yes.
Well done. Excellent. Well done. Excellent. Anand had this story. So Anand and Barua play a national junior after they become very prominent players, somewhere around 1986 or so. So this is a 2-horse race to the national title. It was one tournament where Barua defeated Anand and became the champion. Anand finished. So after the tournament, Anand comes back to Chennai and we meet him in Falster's Club. Anand, how did it go? Every day, I would be playing a Ralopers, and 30th move, I would have an equals plus, and I'll be pushing. And I'll be seeing the top board. The guy would just take knight d4, bishop c5, h5, knight g4, and the opponents will end in a mate. That's about it. So, This is basically one of those fun system of 80s and 90s. We used to enjoy playing H5.
H5, and the point
These
is
are
to
all,
get the
the tragedies of the engine, tragedies of engine is that the engines made sure that such systems would never succeed for black.
right.
All have gone extinct. Yeah, very sad.
But still, I mean, once in a while you see such games, and this is a very interesting point that
No,
the rook.
that's the point. You shouldn't see them once in a while. The point is, instead of believing courses, instead of believing DVDs and chess books, young players should go out and play such moves, in my opinion. Need not be in positions which have already been defined in opening theory, but you should find a way to play chess like this. Then only they will improve the tactics, in my opinion.
Correct.
I very strongly believe in this. Yeah.
So knight to g4, queen went to g3 now, stopping knight f2. And she goes b5. The bishop wants to come and sit on b7. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes. So one pawn is gone, but you get one open file. That is good enough. Bishop b7.
Somewhere I read about creating open files, but I didn't read it properly. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
And I think if here takes, then I guess long castle and the other rook would join in. So Zijun went back.
Yeah,
E2.
this, in my opinion, was one of the pivotal moments of the game. The next move of black, okay.
Pushes the knight away.
I agree with it. Yeah, pushes the knight away. But I don't think even in our wildest dreams, white expected black's next move. When I saw this game when it was played back in the 80s, this move struck me that, this is a person who wants attack at all costs.
King e7.
Yes. King in the center is good.
She wants to just sack on h2 at some point. I don't know. But okay, there's no mate because king can escape from g3.
The point is, why didn't she play triple? It's like Sherlock Holmes' question. The point is the dog. What about the dog? The dog didn't bark. The point is, why did she play triple, which is the most common move here, instead king e7? She did not want the opponent to attack with a3 by opening files in the queen side.
Nice.
This was the most significant thing. Again, a quality of a fearless fighter on the board. I won't give you counterplay, but I'll keep it in the center because in the center right now, I'm fine. Beautiful.
But Sarah, like if I saw this position, like I would say black does not have compensation for the missing pawn. I mean, I'm not looking at the engine or anything, but I just feel like how should black attack? And the fact that Judith went for this and now started building up an attack in itself is amazing. Maybe there is compensation.
Well, probably king e7 was a little too adventurous. If you look at it today with calm eyes, if you can go back just a couple of moves, I think g5 would have been very strong. Even f5 would have been very strong in this position.
G5.
I think g5 was called for because g5 stops bishop e3 in a certain way, yeah? Because after bishop e3, you lose control. After g5, I'm talking about. You lose control of the f4 square, a little more control of the f4 square. Let's say bishop e3, bishop into e3, queen e3, rook h4. Puts a lot of pressure on black's position here. So probably g5 was the best move, and probably king e7 was not called for. But an attacking player, when she has seen king e7, how can she simply resist it? That's about it.
Now rook h4. And you're going to double the rooks down the h5.
Onward march.
Okay, so h3, rook a h8.
King all black's pieces are looking towards the white king, you see?
Right.
There is a pattern here.
This here, the queen looking here. And of course, now it's time for another powerful move, g5.
Of course. This was a little too much, I think. I mean, now fg5, there is not real compensation. And in a certain way, it leads to the black king, in fact. But, with Judith, who cares?
She took.
Yeah.
And now, opponent played a very natural move, queen f2, saying that, look, this is a check here. This is also hanging. How are you going to take care of everything?
Probably she got rattled here. Knight f2 was a better move. But again, practical chess over the board is a different question. Even for a future world champion, the pressure proved to be too much. That's what I believe.
Right. And I think
And another thing is, who would have expected what Judith was going to play for queen f2? That was the point here.
And she finds another brilliant move, guys. You can think here and try to figure out what did she do. And the move played here was F5. Oh,
Beautiful.
beautiful move. And the point is now, if there's no en passant, then it just blocks. Like, what are these pieces doing? This pawn is very powerful. So opponent took and then king f7 and using the king pawn
Very
as the
simple.
shield.
Extremely simple chess.
And now this file is open. This rook will come here. The queen is looking here. Wow, queen e3 and okay, now this is typical Judith stuff. Bishop g2.
Finish it. Yeah.
If king takes, there is check. King f2, check. e1, and you lose the queen. So queen g5. The rook goes back to stop. Queen g7 check. King g2, and the queen was won. Black went on to win.
She was winning in many ways there. More than anything, the attacking ratio, once again, the number of pieces attacking were much more than the number of pieces defending. Amazing.
Yeah, this was
somewhere around here, I feel that this is where Judit Polgar's star started shining. Not just the age and not just the performance she was giving, but the way she was playing. More than anything, fearlessness, once again. That important quality, which is the hallmark of every child genius on the chessboard.
And also, like, throughout her career, as she was progressing and she was making these strides, she was, of course, breaking all the barriers, right? Because no one had achieved what she achieved. Like, she was playing in these Olympiads, then she became a grandmaster, then she started playing in the super tournaments. So what was the atmosphere like at that point? Did people think that, okay, now she will stop, okay, this is the time? And also she's spoken about this, that in tournaments where she would go, she would receive her opponents would not take her seriously sometimes, and then she would have to beat them. Then she would earn the respect of these players.
Anand told this long ago. When Anand was a prodigy, won the World Junior ahead of Soviet sensations, Ivanchuk, Gelfand and company. They also, wow, what a natural talent he is. How beautiful he plays, how beautiful his pieces. Then when he really started being people like Kasparov and Karpov, they all said, no, Anand's play is generally unsound. He plays too fast, etc., etc. Anand said to a large extent, that's what happened to Judith also. Till a certain time, everyone said, wow, Judith is such a wonderful sensation and all that. Then she starts defeating people. Same, Kasparov, Shiro, Anand, and all that. Then at some point, people couldn't accept that. So I have this feeling that, she had to work doubly hard to be accepted by the top players at that time.
Yeah. And she let her moves do the talking. And the final game that we are going to see is against Elizabeta Polgár.
Polgár, by the way, she has come to India. She has played in a women grandmaster organized in 1990 in Chennai, Tal Chess Club in Chennai. I've been a spectator in the tournament.
And she was from Romania.
She ultimately became a world arbiter also, very, very respected and world famous arbiter.
Okay. So again, Judith, of course, would go for the Sicilian always. At that point, knight c6, queen c7, same opening, a6, f4, takes.
and watch it. Just keep going, watch it.
Castle.
Because white plays Tripla, Judith is not going to play h5 today.
Knight f6, bishop f3, queen a5.
Starts attacking straight.
Yeah. Somehow rook c3 might be on cards at some point, but e5, and now
is the English attack setup, obviously. Kind of.
This is such sharp thing, because now after e5, if the knight can't go to d5, then this d7 pawn is hanging. So you have to calculate it accurately. Bishop c5, queen d3, she takes. And now again, counter attack, b4.
This is a typical Judith shock.
Because if you move the knight, then a2 is hanging, and also like knight d5 can come in. So bishop b7, b takes c3.
once again, these are games which should not be analyzed using engines and trying to find who's right and who's wrong. Look at the ideas playing out on the field. Look at the courage shown by the players. Then you understand the worth of this game.
Right.
I mean, in this version, I'm very sure white plays rook d3 here and knight g4. See, it's extremely difficult to find the move which is suggested by probably the best move in the position tactically. That is queen d4 here. Because there are so many interesting options. Queen f3 is one of them, for example. And what was played in the game seems very, very attractive. Queen g3 is one of them. The point of queen d4 is that after castles, and here again, bishop c8 will get you into trouble after queen a2. So you have to go rook c3 here. I'm very sure there is a fine point behind not playing queen g3 but rook c3, playing queen d4 and rook c3. These are not, which should be studied to study such games. What you should learn from such games is the courage again displayed by black here.
Right.
I mean, wonderfully imaginative play here.
Yeah, absolutely. So rook c3 was played, and now the idea is if queen is taken, then rook c8 and you win the rook as well. So then it's two rooks for a queen. Judith went for it, rook h8, and she was sure that the queen is more powerful than the two rooks here.
Gloriously complicated battle this is now.
Knight c4 attacking b2. King b1, but the knight and queen combo is just too strong, no? Here, Sarah, I think just
the king just takes a walk across. The words of Yasser Saravanan, she does the oldest trick known to men. Run for it.
Take and rook g1, queen f3.
I like the geometry of queen b3 and queen into b7. We were talking about patterns and Judit Polgar once again. Yeah.
Yeah. Queen here, queen b3, here knight e3 and queen b7. Tremendous game. And here are a couple of pictures that are there from this. And this is them winning the gold medal with Judith.
So that's the,
I think from the left it is Susan, Judith, Sophia and Madel.
Ildiko Madel.
Yeah. And also there's one more picture here. Who is her opponent? I'm not sure, but here it's a very nice picture with all the photographers around and Judith in a very happy mood.
Yeah, surrounded by photographers, obviously. But somewhere around 1990, she has come and played a Grandmaster tournament in Delhi. There was long ago. There was two Grandmaster tournament in Delhi. One in which Anand and Kamsky also participated. She has been here in Delhi also. Again, the kind of a buzz it created when the Polgar sisters came to play was simply amazing. In many ways, this Olympiad and the show by Polgars, especially Judith, the way she debuted, it kind of started a chapter in the history of chess. I think so far, whoever we have shown and, whatever stories about the Olympiad that we have shared, this is a common, if at all there is a common pattern, it is this, it started a chapter, a new chapter. Gary Kasparov, Vishy Anand, and this Judith Polgar. 1988 and Judith Polgar, 1988 Olympiad, I think they were inseparable stories in my opinion.
Yeah, and as you said, like Olympiads create stars and Olympiads make people take note of someone because it's like all the best players in the world are playing there. And I think this might happen in Chennai as well in 2022.
Very interesting. I was discussing this with Abhijit Kunte some time ago. The point is, our stars, the Indian stars, are already noticed all over the world, thanks to the internet and thanks to the number of tournaments they are winning, all four of them. Nihal Sarin, Arjun Erigaisi, Pragnananda and Gukesh, basically. The only thing is this Olympiad might throw one of their performance into basically the world arena in the Olympiad itself. That's the only thing I expect. Otherwise, I think we already have our stars in this Olympiad.
Yeah. And we hopefully someone, like when they scores something like really high number of points, everyone will take note. But I think no one can beat what Judith did. Yeah, 12.5 out of 13. This is a score which will remain for years to come.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah.